So I'm here to talk to you today about an idea that may seem a little bit crazy. It's the idea that even software, the non-physical parts of all the devices that we use day to day, should have screws. And I'm going to do this by way of an analogy. So I'd like everybody to sit back as we imagine how similar people who buy cars are to people who buy cell phones. So I'm certain a lot of you out there own a car. No hands were being raised, but I'm just going to assume that a lot of people drove here today. So we spend a lot of our time in a car. So you can think about, you commute to work, you might commute back, it's like a half hour, maybe 20 minutes, half hour back. You might do something in the evening, go shopping, go somewhere on the weekend, occasional trip. You're looking at hour, hour and a half on average spent a day in a car. If we think about the amount of time that you spend awake, 24 hours, 8 hours spent asleep, that's like, sorry, time during a day, 8 hours spent asleep. We're looking at 16 waking hours per day. We're looking at almost 10% of your life spent in a car. This is the amount of time you start to really bond with this device, and it starts to become an outward representation of yourself. It's something that a lot of people around you start to notice, and it's something that the car dealers themselves notice and they use in their advertising. They really like setting up the idea that a car is a status symbol. It's something that you own in order to really set yourself aside from your neighbors. This here being the Porsche Panamera, which will be interesting a little bit later. Now, cars, they aren't cheap. They're something that you're plunking down tens of thousands of dollars in order to obtain, which means that they're a major purchase. They're something that you'd love to have a lot of options. And luckily, you have them, whether it's something very large like a Hummer or small like our very own Make-It-Work Mini Cooper, all of which you can obtain at your local car dealer. Now, there are lots of little separate options you can obtain on your car. Some of them come with a GPS navigation, Bluetooth radio, so you can connect to your phone, or the rear view camera, which is becoming popular these days, in order to see what's going on right behind you. Because sometimes if there's something short, like a kid or something, you might run into them if you don't have a camera like this, and so it's nice to have these things. Now, all of these different things end up forming what we tend to call packages. So the dealer will be coming at you and be saying that they've got a certain package, they've certified that it works, they've gone through lots of safety certification, and they've also put together a warranty that will come along with that product. And they've decided that there's certain types of maintenance that they can and will perform on that car in order to make that guarantee happen. Now, some things, however, we'd still like to be able to do to our car, despite the fact that it didn't come with the car originally. And there are lots of options. We can attach things with string. So you see people will attach things with like the little air fresheners or fuzzy dice. Some people will use suction cups, get a little more solid connection, Reddit alien bobblehead, or the car radar detector. And people oftentimes use paint. So despite the fact that paint kind of is an aspect of the car that is important to its rust protection, it's oftentimes considered something that's a little bit modifiable. So people put racing stripes on it or even go for entire custom themes for their car that match their lifestyle. Now, some people, however, really want to be able to go further. And luckily, the car dealer will offer options, things that the car was designed to be able to kind of swap in and out. So here's an example. You can take the radio out of your car and you can go get a new radio. You might also go out and get new tires. It's something that's very oftentimes assumed that you might need different treads, different weather conditions. You might need chains in certain areas. Now, what does that do to your warranty? Well, luckily, there's this thing. It's a federal act, which is the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, that states, and this is taken from Wikipedia, warrantors cannot require that only branded parts be used with the product in order to retain the warranty. So when you go and you get that radio, you go and you get that new set of tires, you're allowed to go and buy a radio off the shelf as long as it fits in with your system, even if it's from a third party. However, still, some people want to go further. They want to go through that warranty. They want to be able to make all kinds of crazy modifications to their cars. They might start switching to making modifications with tools like bolts. Some things might not really be advised on your car. Some of these spoiler options get a little bit crazy. But you can also start ripping the car apart into little pieces. You can get down into the wirings, the guts of the car, and try to really increase the functionality of it. Sometimes it might be something as simple as a single speaker. It might be to turn your entire car into a giant speaker. Hopefully you can still hear things in the inside, but probably not. We can hear you outside, though. Now, these are all kind of things that end users might do, but there also are enterprises and there are academic reasons why people want to be able to make modifications to things. So this is a picture of the Stanford entry to the DARPA Grand Challenge, which was to build an autonomous vehicle that would be able to go 30 miles throughout in desert driving. They actually got the help of Volkswagen in order to be able to connect up with the drive-by-wire systems of the car. And some humorous parts here, that's an entire power strip because they have so many computers. They have 6 computers running in here. And over there is a joystick, which they were using for doing their initial test piloting. Now, there's even a show, it's called Pimp My Ride, all about all the kinds of crazy modifications people like to make to cars. The premise is that the host, DJ rapper Exhibit, will do interviews with somebody who's kind of volunteering their car up to the crazy car gods in order to find out what would be an interesting modification that they and the audience would appreciate. That they spend the rest of the show making that modification. But at the end, they unveil it to the person who donated his car up with this particular spiel, which goes something like, "Yo, dog, we heard you like bowling. So we ripped the trunk of your car apart, and we put a portable bowling lane in there. So no matter where you are, no matter where you're going, you can pull over to the side of the road and get your lane fixed." You'll see many other types of interesting modifications people make, but that stereotypical phrase has actually become somewhat of an internet meme. So you'll see things like, "Yo, dog, I heard you like Max, so we put only 1 pedal in your car." "Yo, dog, I heard you like apps, so we made an app to make apps using an app." Now, which luckily gives me kind of a cheap transition over to the world of cell phones. So a lot of you out there probably also own a cell phone. Probably a lot of you out there are not going to raise your hand again or cheer. That's OK, because I bet a lot of you do. Some of you may, in fact, own multiple cell phones. Talk about repetitive stress injury on that one. Now, I'm going to make the argument that you're spending a lot of your time, again, with cell phones. And if you take and add up, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but you have the occasional 4-hour call home to grandma. You've got the business meeting you might be doing with conference calls. And you spend a lot of your life on a phone. And it's something that, I guess, hopefully isn't overlapping too much, the amount of time you're spending in the car. But I'll make the argument that, again, it becomes something that people really bond with. You may know somebody who sends a lot of text messages, and on their phone, they can send text messages faster than you can even think. It's also something that kind of becomes an external representation of self, I'll say, because again, it's something that you spend so much of your time bonding with, and it's something that so many of your friends end up also interacting with and seeing. And it's something I will again say that the people who sell these phones know. So this is the iPhone 3GS White Edition, sorry, 3G White Edition. The white version only came on the 16 gigabyte, the more expensive model. Browsing around online forums, I would find many people who were waiting for the white one to come out, because that way their friends, at a glance, would know that they splurged for the more expensive one. But there are even dedicated design groups that spend a lot of time working on phones. So back to our Porsche Panamera, Porsche themselves, their design group makes a design for a phone that was specifically for Porsche customers, kind of fit in with the theme and the ambiance of their entire fleet of cars. And I'm again going to say that it's a major purchase. So now a lot of you out there may be saying, well, it was only $100, maybe $200. It may have been free with your contract. But the key word there is with your contract. And so if you look at over the course of a year or two of your contract usage, you might be talking about thousands of dollars that you're plunking down again. In the United States, we tend to think about the phone being a free add-on. But really, if you think about the entire package, you're spending thousands of dollars in order to get a device for a number of years and some kind of service package. So luckily, again, there are all kinds of different options. I mean, even these all look very similar, but they're all different, the people who are using them. And there's all kinds of variety outside of this type of little central thing. And again, we see the types of options that come with it. We see the built-in GPS navigation, the Bluetooth radio, so it can talk to your car. We see the front-facing camera, so that you can do video conferencing with your friend. And then we see the things that people want to be able to do that didn't come with the phone. And so many of you probably know about things like the App Store that comes with the iPhone. So there are many, many apps available. This is a picture of the app wall at WWDC, which was showing live installations of things from the App Store. But I'll make the argument that an app is kind of a jail. You're almost trapped inside of an icon, unable to get out. When you've got that icon, you can open it, you can close it, but that application isn't changing the way the entire system works. Many people want to be able to do more. So luckily, some systems, like for instance the Android, allow you to interact with a couple key things, like our radio or tires. So here's an example of a modified keyboard that you can get called Swipe on Android devices. But for most devices, that's not the case. So you end up having to do something which we call jailbreaking. So this is a program called QuickPwn from 2 years ago that was really popular, which was used in order to jailbreak some of the various iPhone models. And the goal is to be able to change the software that's on it to something that Apple didn't provide. So here, instead of the Apple logo, it's booting up with the Pwn Apple logo. One of the primary things the jailbreak tool does is it installs an entire different alternative to the App Store, which is called Cydia, a program that I wrote. But I won't say that it's the only application that's ever existed. So another one, for example, is Rock Your Phone. We've been recently working together on a lot of things, but you can start to see some of the parallels. Rock Your Phone, Pimp My Ride, a lot of the wording is even similar. And there are systems on other devices. WebOS Internals has something called Preware that is fairly popular. Now, people may say no one does this. I'll make the argument, actually, that almost 10% of people do. This number floats between 6 and 12% is what I hear from the various analytics companies. Now, what are they doing? And so here I'm going to give you a little roller coaster ride of things that people do. So here's a stock iPhone. Steve Jobs might say, any wallpaper you want as long as it's black. Again, a connection to Ford, the original Model T. He has started allowing wallpapers. I was kind of impressed. But here's somebody who's gone through and changed all of the icons, all of the graphics on the system. This is a theme called Elite Pro. Here's somebody who's gone through, they wanted it to look in the whole mystique of the Porsche, and so they've spent some time working on a theme. But it's not just these kind of graphics changes. People want functionality modifications, change the way the device operates. So maybe you want your icons to be in a different order on the screen. Maybe you want to have an incredibly large number of icons. Switch between pages really rapidly. Maybe you want to switch between the applications really rapidly. Here's an example of something similar on the iPad. Maybe you need on the lock screen, you want to be able to take out of your pocket and see what's going on, see pictures next to names and contact lists, the ability to do mass changes to your email, send rich text email, a feature that the iPhone doesn't normally have, download files in Safari, download YouTube videos and add them to your iPod library, or, and here's where I try to make a connection back to Pimp My Ride, yo dog, we heard you like Twitter, so we ripped the status bar of your phone apart and put an entire Twitter client in there. So you can simply slide down from the top of the screen and slide into a Twitter client no matter what you're doing. And some of the groups that you'll find doing this, XDA developers, Mod My Eye, and places you can find more information. But to get back to this idea of software having screws, I feel that we really need to be able to safely take things apart, put them back together, make modifications like this. The Nexus 1 is one of the few phones that has such functionality. It has a built-in feature for doing OEM unlocks. And the WebOS devices from Palm also, and you can plug in the old Konami video game code in them in order to unlock them. But otherwise, you're left with things like Lime Rain and Green Poison, applications that have been released yesterday and today in order to jailbreak your current iPhone, which may be in your pocket. So thank you very much.